It's a great honor to be here, and I feel in a way that I'm participating in the proverbial activity of bringing coal to Newcastle. I do a lot of talking about climate change and environmental problems in the United States, but as you might suspect, the public is not very well informed, and you have to start with the basics, and sometimes it's very hard to get to the most fundamental issues. And here I am in Sydney, and for me, for a long time, the Green Left Weekly and the work people have been doing here has been a sort of a beacon of hope in terms of bringing these issues together in a meaningful way. And many of the people that I've met today and yesterday are people that I've heard of from reading your work, but it's nice to finally be here and be able to talk directly to you. So I feel that I'm learning as much as I'm able to convey, and I hope in bringing coal to Newcastle, at least you'll see it in a new way. My topic is I always give a title to my talks, even if it's only a 15-minute talk, and this one is called Capitalism and Climate Change. And capitalism is, of course, the most dynamic economic system the world has ever seen, and the most technologically dynamic. Some of you may be familiar with the phrase from the Communist Manifesto where Marx says the bourgeoisie turns under the revolution brought into being by the bourgeoisie, everything solid melts into air. Well, we're faced with that problem now. Everything solid is melting into air, and it's coming back at us in a way that we never suspected. And I want to talk about that, and I want to talk about capitalism and climate change, but I'm going to start talking about the environmental predicament and the usual solutions to this. And I'm only going to gradually get to the issue of capitalism, because it's very important to understand that in most of the discussions of these problems, we have this phenomenon of the invisible system. The system is never really talked about, and the relation of capitalism to this crisis is not normally talked about. The main aspects of the social system in which we live are treated as natural. So while we're talking more and more about the climate system and the disruption of the climate system, there's very little discussion of the social system. What is the social system we live in? If we have to address the climate problem, how do we address it? Obviously by addressing the social system, but we're not allowed to talk about what that system is. We avoid the elephant in the living room. So let me develop this a little bit, and you'll see how the argument goes. I wanted to first, I'm not going to go over all the details, obviously, on the predicament we're in terms of global warming. I just want to point to the most recent developments in that respect to give you an idea of how severe the problem is. And is in the latest research, and is particularly in two articles published in the proceeding of the National Academy of Sciences in the United States, two major articles published in 2007. They deal with the fact that the problem is accelerating. That is, the concentration of carbon of carbon dioxide and greenhouse gases in the atmosphere is increasing at an accelerating rate. In the 21st century, that is in the years 2000 to 2006, the whole problem speeded up. And what we want to know is, why did it speed up? Because most of the, of course we know there's a problem. We know we have to cut emissions. We know we're headed towards a disaster if business as usual continues. But business as usual was seen as occurring at a certain rate, and now that rate has speeded up. So rather than reducing the problem is getting worse faster. And so this is what they were talking about in these reports of the proceeding of the National Academy of Sciences. And they said to, quote, the growth rate of global atmospheric CO2 for 2000 to 2006 was the highest since monitoring began in 1959, significantly higher than in the 1980s and 1990s. Why is that? They had three reasons. One is the emissions. The rate of emissions has increased. The emissions are going up faster, and rather than decreasing or even increasing at a steady rate, the emissions have actually seen, I think, something like a 30% increase in this period over what they were in the previous decade. Second, all of the arguments on solving the problem, stabilizing the emissions, and then eventually decreasing them, and are based. The standard arguments are based on the notion that we will be decreasing the carbon intensity of GDP. That is, we will be using less or emitting less carbon for every dollar of GDP. So the carbon intensity is supposed to go down. It was going down in the 1980s and 90s. But now the carbon intensity of GDP, or of world gross product, that is, globally, carbon intensity is going up, not down. And that's very serious. The third factor that explains this big rise in CO2 going into the global atmosphere as compared to a decade earlier is that the airborne fraction of CO2 is increasing.